Alright, let me know if you guys can hear me. Audio seems good, but just let me know. And since we're starting so late tonight, I'm just going to assume that you guys can hear me. Anyway, let's get started. If there's any problem, just say so in the comments. Sorry for the delay tonight. I was late getting my notes together. Over the last few days, I've been going to sleep pretty late and getting up pretty early just because I had things to do. And they finally caught up with me today. I was kind of destroyed. And I had some trouble sleeping also, and it all just piled up, and I had just a lot of trouble getting going today. But thanks for showing up. So let's just talk about Lockdown here, and then we can get to whatever we feel like doing on Saturday night. Okay, Lockdown 2016. Once again, a steel cage-themed Impact instead of a pay-per-view. Not thrilled about that for a number of reasons, but there are some positives here. I really liked the show taking place in the UK. I think I suggested they do that once. You got the bigger arenas, the bigger crowds, even though you can't fucking see the crowds because all the lights are turned off. But it does create a bigger atmosphere and makes Lockdown feel bigger and look bigger than it would otherwise. As for the show itself, I think there were some hits and misses. For one, some of the matches were shorter than they should have been. They had the right idea, trying not to cram too many matches into the show, but then they had to go and do a couple talking segments, and suddenly your main event world title match is, 15 minutes? Maybe less? This is Lockdown, TNA. It's not the time when people are clamoring for a lot of promos. If there was one promo that really belonged there, it was the opener. You see EC3 and Rockstar Spud really get on the same page again and agree that while there might still be some hard feelings between them, they hate Matt Hardy more than each other. It's a good exchange. There are several nods to continuity here, and for fans like me who always loved EC3 and Spud together, this was good stuff. I got excited that these two were gonna be the two best friends that anyone could have once again, but yeah. Then the second Rockstar Spud said, "I'll always do the right thing," you were like, well, shit, I guess he's turning heel. And he did. And Matt Hardy did not lose the title, even though the ratings have been going down every single week since he won it. So yeah, the Spud turn was hardly a surprise, but if you're going to do a turn like this, where shock value is not an option and most people see it coming, you better damn well make sure that the journey getting there is worth taking, and that's the part they got right in my opinion. Spud turning on EC3 the way he did, there was history there was a story there. You understood that Spud was betrayed by his friend, was humiliated in his home country, got his head shaved, and he's been carrying around a grudge against EC3 for a year. And I liked how he repeated that line at the end, "I'll always do the right thing," because in Spud's mind, screwing over EC3 was the right thing to do. And I think that's a really interesting trait to play with here. Believe me, I'm not happy that Matt Hardy kept the title. I'm not happy about that at all. But if there was one thing that really made that moment work, it was Spud's involvement. So after the opening promo, we move on to Beer Money versus Eric Young and Bram. I was not anticipating this one all that much, not because it's been bad, but I'm just over the whole Rude EY thing at this point. I'm tired of watching these two fight. It kind of feels like they're doing it just to do it at this point. But credit where it's due, this match was a lot of fun while it lasted. Problem is, it only lasted for like 11 minutes. Yeah, the brawl they had last week went longer than 11 minutes. I don't know why this got cut so short. I was actually really enjoying it, and then suddenly it was over. I guess they had to make time for the Kurt Angle promo later. And I have to question EY and Bram getting beat so quickly here. Excuse me. What was the point of having EY put Jeff Hardy out of action if you're going to spend almost every show since then invalidating that moment by having him and Bram getting beaten and embarrassed? mean, they have lost to Beer Money in every single encounter they've had. The guy who pile drive Jeff Hardy through a table is looking like less and less of a threat. Doesn't make sense to me. You really should be protecting EY and Bram right now. The thing is, Beer Money couldn't exactly lose, I guess, so I'm not sure what they could have done here. Maybe it would have been a better idea to not do this particular feud at this time. Backstage, someone has injured Madison Rayne, so she might not be able to compete in the Knockouts Lethal Lockdown match tonight. Ah, great. That's just fucking perfect. So, you're telling me that instead of injuring Velvet Sky, you attack one of the three women that you were counting on a great deal to actually make the first ever Knockouts Lethal Lockdown match watchable. Brilliant. Next, we have Trevor Lee versus Tigre Uno for the X Division title. A good, albeit short match that still probably got more time than this feud warranted. I don't know what you want me to say here. Tigre Uno was a nothing champion that the writers did nothing with, so there's no reason to invest in him or get behind him in any way here. And it's not like there's any kind of interesting storyline between him and Trevor Lee either. I feel bad for saying that because, God bless him, the guy did dive off the top of the cage in the best spot of the night. But it's the truth, and that's nobody's fault but the writers. And Trevor Lee, look, the guy can wrestle, but I'm sorry, I still think he looks like a fucking bum. Either give him a different look or incorporate this more into his gimmick, like he wants to look like this, as a way of spitting in the face of all the pundits and critics, not to mention assholes like me, who say that he should be trying to look more like a TV star, seeing as how he's, on TV. And what the hell is with his mouth? He looks like he had a stroke or something. Look. Look at this. Look. I'm Trevor Lee. Seriously, what is he going for with that? Well, Madison Rayne is too hurt to compete, so she's out of Lethal Lockdown. And for some reason, Gail Kim decides that Maria, the heel, who she has been at odds with recently, should replace her. Because Gail Kim is really fucking stupid. So, anyway, it's time for our Knockouts match. There was some false advertising here. This was not Lethal Lockdown. This was a steel cage match with weapons. Lethal Lockdown has a roof that lowers down onto the cage. Where was the roof? I don't know. I guess they forgot to pack it on the plane or something. I'll say this. I was as skeptical as anybody, but this match was a lot better than I expected. Was it outstanding? I wouldn't go that far, but it was really good. Probably the best Knockouts match we've seen in at least a few months. Thankfully, it started the only way it could have or should have, with the two best wrestlers in the match by a country mile, Gail Kim and Jade. I really like the back and forth between these two, how they kept trying to one-up each other with the kicks and the Hurricane Ranas, It was good stuff. And I look forward to the day when these two finally have a singles feud. I expect they'll have some killer matches if, Gail Kim doesn't just squash her. But then, more people start coming in and the match inevitably gets messier. But aside from Velvet Sky's weak-ass offense and those downright laughable moments when she's fending off all the heels at once, this was alright. Even Rebel, I thought, did well for herself here. She didn't have a huge role or anything, but for what they gave her to do, she was fine. Even broke out some new moves. By the way, how is it possible that Rebel already has better-looking kicks than Velvet when she's been wrestling a fraction of the time and Velvet's a nearly 15-year veteran? I don't know. So this continues for a while. It's a little bit on the messy side, but not bad. Not surprisingly, Jade took the best bump of the entire match with that top rope flapjack. Eventually, it's Maria's turn to enter the match, and well, guys, wouldn't you know it, it turns out Maria was not trustworthy. I know, right? Who could have possibly seen that coming? So Maria locks Gail and Velvet in with the dollhouse, and here's where you kind of have to suspend your disbelief. I remember a show last year where Gail Kim defeated the dollhouse all by herself in a handicap cage match, and now all of a sudden she can't? Even though she has help this time? Even though she and Velvet have both kicked all three of the heels' asses single-handedly recently? You figure that out. Wow, it's almost as if booking Gail to obliterate every molecule of credibility that the dollhouse had last year was a really dumb idea because it leads to discontinuity like this. Whatever. Look, the right team won, and the right person got beat. The dollhouse finally got over on Gail Kim in a big way. Jade even actually got to pin her. This is exactly what needed to happen, exactly what should have happened. It was a long time coming, and the only thing dragging this down, ruining the moment, is that the dollhouse's biggest victory over Gail Kim to date was done just to put heat on Maria. Nevertheless, at the end of the day, Jade still gained a pinfall victory over Gail Kim. Nothing can ever change that. Now, let's see how long it takes for Gail to invalidate this accomplishment by getting that win back. How long will it take? A month? Less than a month? On that note, if you'd like to hear more of my thoughts on Gail Kim, go to TNAasylum.net and read my new column, Gail Kim Isn't the Hero, She's the Villain. I'll put the link down there. Please check it out. I had some very interesting things to say. Anyway, strong effort from the Knockouts here, and I really hope that this Dollhouse Beautiful People feud is done now. It's not going anywhere. I really don't know what else you can do with it. Plus, it's already been going on since October. The Dollhouse just got a decisive win in probably the biggest type of match they could possibly have. This feud is over. The Beautiful People lost. Time to move on. Then we have another talking segment. I do appreciate the effort to make every Kurt Angle match in his farewell tour feel significant, but I don't know if Lockdown was the best place for this, because you're taking time away from matches that were actually announced. Plus, it involves Lashley talking, which is usually not a very good thing. He's acting more heelish, trying to get under Kurt's skin, and the crowd seemed to buy into it to an extent, but this guy has never been a great talker, probably never will be a great talker. I think doing a video package instead of this would have been fine, as Lashley seems like the type of guy who would benefit from being post-produced. Or maybe if they wanted another promo, doing it on the next show would have been better. You know, we've only got 2 hours for Lockdown here, and time is kind of precious. Oh boy, it's time for Eli Drake versus Grado. I'm kind of beyond anger when it comes to this, mainly because I don't want to devote enough of myself, enough of my energy to get angry about this match because I don't feel like it deserves it. But make no mistake, I hated everything about this. Eli Drake cuts a promo before the match. He knows Odarg the Great is Grado. Everyone does, it's not a secret. The fact that Grado somehow thinks that changing his name and wearing a mask that doesn't even cover his face would conceal his identity is absolutely asinine. They're openly acknowledging that this is Grado. Nobody in the company is falling for it. Except somehow they are, because as soon as he's unmasked, they take him out of the building because he got fired and he doesn't work there. It took him getting unmasked for that to happen. Which means that the mask actually did fool them. So they're asking us to accept that somehow they didn't know who he was under the mask, even though they constantly acknowledged that they knew who he was under the mask. This match was fucking dumb. There's a bunch of lame-ass comedy where Grado can't even get over the ropes, can't even climb the cage. Get it? Because he's fat and out of shape. Ha ha ha. Well, if he's fat and out of shape, then why the fuck can't Eli Drake make short work of him? Why can't Eli Drake beat him at all? Why the fuck are you making Eli Drake look goddamn ridiculous for not even being able to finish this idiot, getting his trunks pulled down, spending a chunk of the match mooning the audience and the camera, acting so stupid that he tries to pull Grado back over the cage instead of just walking out the fucking door? Why did you take Eli Drake, who could be a big star for you, at a time when you are lacking both star power and new talents with star quality, and making him look like an absolute joke? Why did you do any of this? This was bad. It was completely inane and insulting to the intelligence of everyone who watched it. I was embarrassed for TNA that they put this on their show and hope to never again see anything like it on Impact Wrestling as long as I live. I watched this, and at that point, I just wanted to turn the show off. I wanted to turn the show off and walk away from the TV. I didn't. But only because there was an EC3 world title match next. So I kept watching. But that was really hard. So finally, we have EC3 versus Matt Hardy for the world title. I'm still just not buying into Matt in this role at all. I'm not. I'm counting the days until we've got a more believable world champion, but this angle accomplished the EC3 face turn and made it work. The crowds loved cheering for him. They loved singing that theme song, ooh, ooh. They're behind him, so while the heel world champion, Hepatitis Hardy, thanks for that EC3, is pretty questionable, at least they've got a great top babyface. There was some decent psychology here with them doing a bunch of the moves they did in their last match, like Matt putting EC3's head through the chair and stuff. And that's good. The storytelling really needed to be on point here since this turned into more of an angle than a match. They almost lost me when Tyrus got in the cage, but EC3 even managed to make that work. And then there was the Spud turn, which again was very well handled. There were a bunch of twists and turns here, but it never felt like overbooking. It never felt cluttered. It felt like they did just enough without turning the match into a big clusterfuck, which went a long way toward compensating for the lack of the really huge spots that you might be expecting in the main event. May not have been the match of the night, but it told the best story of the night, even if the outcome was not the one that I was hoping for. I think this show came off pretty well, aside from the Grado shit, which I don't even want to think about because it pisses me off so much. And the Angle Lashley promo, which I think took too much time away from the matches and should have been saved for the next week. But for the most part, I like what they did here. I'm glad they were able to get the Decay on the show and feature them in that backstage angle, because out of all the new acts the company is developing right now, this is the one that I feel is catching on the fastest. And I'd like to see Lockdown in the UK be an annual thing, preferably with the lights in the arena turned on next time. So there were some issues here, certainly, but a pretty enjoyable Lockdown regardless. Okay. Going to the chat room. Thoughts on what Josh Matthews said during the Lethal Lockdown match about if so-and-so was in charge of the knockouts, they would be in charge. What? I guess you mean Maria. I guess it depends what you mean by in charge. If she was a managerial type of figure who kind of fucks with the baby faces and maybe hopefully brings in a lot of new talent, that would be all right. Although they did the knockout authority figure once before, and it was just fucking pointless. If by in charge you mean being the champion, then I say God no. I don't want Maria to be the Knockouts champion. That would be a really bad thing because I want a strong wrestler in that role. Maria, God bless her, is just not a strong wrestler. If they wanted her to be sort of a knockout authority figure type, I guess that could work, even if it's not. I don't think it's necessary. But I guess it really depends on what they do with it. Am I the only one who didn't like the cage? They usually use their old black cage with the camera holes, but now they went with a standard silver one. Hopefully they won't use it again. Now I noticed that too. It wasn't a huge deal for me. I wish they could have cut some holes in the cage to get the cameras in there. It did cut down on visibility a little bit. It wasn't a huge deal for me personally, but I did notice it. I guess they couldn't bring the cage with them overseas. I get that, but yeah, would have helped if they could. Going on Grado. Okay, did that. Thoughts on the Motor City Machine Guns reunion in ROH? Well, I didn't see it. I saw videos of it afterward. I'm really happy that the reunion is happening. It kind of sucks that it's happening now when, everyone involved is a lot more beat up than they used to be. I would have preferred it happen at a time when everyone was a little bit younger and healthier. But I'm glad it's happening at all. I will have to check that out. I have to find that somewhere, even though ROH isn't really my thing. But Motor City Machine Guns are certainly my thing, so I'll find it somewhere. Also, should New Day feud with the Bucks and Omega? Well, the Bucks and Omega don't work for WWE, so I don't see how that would happen right now. To be honest, the Knockout Lethal Lockdown match was much better than I expected. Not incredibly memorable, but there were no botches at least. All the girls did fine, and it was so cool to see Jade pinning Gale. Agreed on all counts. Do you think the lack of new females is why there are so many Dollhouse versus Boring People matches? Pretty much, yeah. There were other things that they could have done, but then Taryn left, and Brooke left, and Kong got fired. And now I feel like they're dragging this feud out as long as they are because they literally have nothing else going on. And once again, they're dragging their feet on bringing in new talent. They have brought in new women, but aside from Rosemary, none of those women should really be in the ring. Okay, Maria can wrestle, but she can't do it well. And Raquel has had, 3 matches now? So she really shouldn't be wrestling on TV anytime soon. Rebby doesn't seem to want to wrestle again, at least not right now. So what else can they really do? It's like, for lack of any better options, they're going with Gale versus Maria next, most likely. I would much rather see, Gale versus Rosemary. Although I'm not anxious to see Rosemary getting beat by Gale. Because Gale just seems to love squashing people. So if they want to have Gale squash Maria, okay, fine. Not really hurting anybody. But if they have Maria beat Gale, oh boy, that's going to be bad. Because you had Gail Kim pretty much squash Kong, obliterate the Dollhouse, only to build her up to be beaten by Maria. Oh god, that would be horrible. Seems like from a good wrestling standpoint, you'd want to do Gale versus Jade for the title. I think Jade at least deserves a title shot after pinning the champion in Lethal Lockdown. I think she should be the number 1 contender. I don't know if she will be, but logically that would be the place I'd go next. It's a hell of a lot more interesting than Gail and Maria. I liked your blog about Gail Kim. Thanks for using one of my statements, but my statement still stands. Not only I want Gail to beat up Maria, I want Drew Galloway to hurt both her and Mike Bennett. Okay, yeah, in that blog that I mentioned earlier, Gail Kim isn't the hero, she's the villain. I took some quotes from the chat room from last week, and I couldn't source those because the chat room disappears after the stream ends. So I went back and watched the video again and got things that I said out loud from the chat room. Sorry I couldn't source those properly, but yeah, that's what happens. Want Drew to hurt both her and Mike Bennett. Well, Drew beating up Maria wouldn't make him much of a babyface. That would probably be out of character for him. If they wanted to bring in a new woman, put her with Drew Galloway, and have that woman beat up Maria, I'd be all for that. That would be great. Hope that you're feeling better. Thoughts on Shane's return? I'm not looking forward to him versus The Undertaker. You're not? Dude, why not? Shane did some pretty insane things in the ring back in the day. Some of them with The Undertaker. I mean, sure, they're both older now, and probably not going to do anything too nuts, but you never know. I mean, Shane's done some really unexpected things in the past. Maybe he'll even break out the Van Terminator. I'd mark out for that. Call me crazy, but I'm actually looking forward to Shane versus The Undertaker at WrestleMania. What would you rather have? What, Taker versus Braun Strowman? Fuck that. Jade pinning Gail was a highlight in my opinion. Oh, hell yeah. I hope to see more of the Decay. Me too. I think that gimmick is really catching on. Fucking stutter. I'm not crazy about Abyss's involvement yet. I think there are other people out there who would be a better fit for this group, a better fit for teaming with Steve and Rosemary. But I really like the concept overall. I think Rosemary adds so much to this group. I really love that the Manson little music video thing they had there. It's one of those things that's not necessary, but it helps. It lets the fans know that they're behind this group and they have an investment in this group. There are plans for this group, hopefully. Plus, now that Davey's out of action with a knee injury, Beer Money you're going to need somebody to feud with. I think the Decay are far and away the best option because they've already buried EY and Bram, and they've buried Eli Drake and Jesse Goddard now. So it's got to be the Decay, I guess. So I think they'd be smart to put the tag titles on the Decay sooner than later. I think it would be smart to put the Knockouts title on Rosemary when the Suicide Squad movie comes around. Because like I said, that's like free cross promotion right there. Because you get your own version of Harley Quinn. It'd be a good idea to give her a big push around the time that the Suicide Squad movie is a thing. Just saying. Eli Drake deserves better. I actually wouldn't be against a small faction consisting of him, Goddard, and Bennett. More factions, huh? Maybe an alliance. I'm really burned out on factions, I gotta tell you. So maybe an alliance where they sort of loosely work together, but I'm not looking forward to more factions. I'm really not. Excuse me. I said it before and I'll say it again. I'm afraid this might lead to an Omega Matt Hardy brand invasion angle. I don't know if I go so far as to call it an invasion angle. I think there might be an angle where he's kind of surrounding himself with all his friends and just getting them hired. Because, Shane Helms is his guy. I guess Trevor Lee is the product of the Omega thing. Correct me if I'm wrong there, but it kind of seems like he's getting all his people in there anyway. I don't think it's an invasion angle. God, I hope it's not an invasion angle because Jesus Christ, they've done way too many of those. I know Jade hasn't been built up that great, but I'd still rather see her win the Knockouts title than Maria getting the title, because with no new faces, it will just be Gail getting the title back. Exactly. This is why they need new Knockouts. Okay, say they do put the title on Maria. I hope they don't. But if they do, who does she have to feud with? What? Have her have more matches with Gail? Is she going to feud with Velvet? Oh, yeah, Maria versus Velvet Sky for the Knockouts title. Yeah, that'll turn out good. Ugh. But say they put the title on Maria, on Jade rather, they kind of run into the same problem. Okay, yeah, Jade versus Gail will produce some great matches, but if that's all you have, that'll get old quickly, just like this Beautiful People Dollhouse thing has gotten old quickly. And then, what do you have? What else is there? Just Jade versus Velvet? Fuck's sake, they literally have two baby faces right now in this division. They need new knockouts. They need viable new girls who can believably go for the title, and they need them yesterday. I really hope it starts with Maria bringing in someone else to compete against Gail for her. But who really knows? I know it's in the past, you can't stand Anderson Silva. I never said that. Want to let you know that Silva lost by decision to Michael Bisping tonight. Ooh, really? Wow. Well, I think Silva's past his prime at this point. I think the Chris Weidman fights prove that. So Silva's really not what he used to be, but wow, listen to Michael Bisping, huh? Whoa, boy, that's probably time for Silva to hang it up. I never said I hated Anderson Silva, though. Never said that at all. Maria attacked Madison. No, we don't know that for sure. Could have been the Dollhouse. Mike Skills, Maria better than Madison. Yeah, probably. I mean, if Maria's good at one thing, it's promos. And Madison is, good on the mic when she's not screeching all her lines and everything. When she's not doing that, she's very solid there as well. I would put Maria over her, probably. Wrestling-wise, Madison better than Maria. Yeah. Okay. Why would the Dollhouse attack Velvet from a kayfabe perspective? Even they know that she's completely worthless, Madison may have caused some trouble for them. Well, because Velvet, yeah, she is completely worthless, but regardless, Velvet had been one of the girls who had beaten them up 3-on-1 recently. Plus, from a non-kayfabe perspective, taking Velvet out of there would make the match a lot better. I'm just saying. Can't wait for Jeff Hardy to take the title away from Matt. Pope beat up Tyrus, and all the Knockouts beat up Reby Sky. Yeah. Well, they're probably building up to Jeff versus Matt. I would just say it's Slammiversary. God, is Matt going to hold the title that long? Oh, Jesus. Pope to beat up Tyrus. Well, we don't know if that's going to be a thing yet. All the Knockouts to beat up Reby Sky. That might happen backstage. I don't know if it'll happen on the show. What star or stars back in WCW could have been huge if it wasn't for politics? My picks are Alex Wright, Disco Inferno, Natural Born Thrillers, Lance Storm, Revolution, Canyon, Mike Awesome, and The Wall. Lance Storm, well, he was already huge. I mean, he was the number 2 heel in the company, knocking on the door of the main event at one point, and then WWE bought him out, and Storm was never the same. Some of the Natural Born Thrillers, specifically Sean O'Hare. Sean O'Hare could have been a fucking huge. and it seemed like they were really behind him, really building him up as like the next Goldberg type of character. And then again, the WWE happened, and yeah, definitely Storm and Sean O'Haire. Thankfully, there was more Decay segments this week than a zillion Grado segments of last week's show. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I really like what they're doing with the Decay here with this Jimmy Havoc thing. Uh, Giving some kind of backstory for Rosemary, and hell, a storyline about Rosemary is not going to be a bad thing. I mean, she's killing it every time she's on screen. This character is fascinating. There's so many little things she does, like little nuances that she adds that just make her so compelling to watch. And now they get this storyline about her, how she's Jimmy Havoc's muse, and he wants her back as his partner, but no, she's part of us now, and she doesn't want you back, and whatever. It's interesting. I hope it leads to some good matches. Apparently, Jimmy Havoc, tore his ACL after this stuff was taped, so hopefully we get some kind of closure to it before that happens. I'm really liking it so far, though. I can't stand Maria because she is annoying, and if you've seen her days at ROH, she was always interfering in her husband's match. Yeah, that is what heel managers tend to do. I hope Rebel uses that move she did on Velvet as her finisher. It was pretty cool. Yeah, I noticed that. That was cool. She grabs her and then bends back and then slams her down. I don't know if I've seen that before. That was a pretty cool move. If you want to use that as her finisher, I could see that. Who would win, McGregor or Diaz? I'll go with Conor McGregor, I guess, just because he's newer. Diaz, I don't know. Hasn't Diaz been hinting at retirement for a while? I'll go with Conor McGregor. Spud did have a good reason why given last year. Exactly, that's why it worked. He was humiliated last year in his home country, and he's been hanging on to that ever since, just waiting for the right time to get back at EC3, holding a grudge all year long. And, the story worked. Just little things he did, like doing this. Like, this is for shaving my head, That's what made the turn work. What made you drop the old pre-recorded review format? That was at a time when I really didn't have a lot of free time on hand to do those reviews. Something a lot of people don't know is I put a lot more time into doing the pre-recorded reviews than you might think. I would spend a lot of time making a lot of notes and organizing things and kind of figuring out what I'm going to say and practicing it a lot before I would even record the videos, which would actually take quite a while. I mean, I typically record for like an hour and then edit it down to about 15, 20 minutes. And, of course, the editing took a long time. And put all that together, and, they would just eat up a lot of my time. And that was time I just did not have because of other things I had going on. And I wanted to be able to get these. I knew that if I was going to be able to continue reviewing the show every week, I was going to have to be able to do it really quickly and easily. So I decided to stream it. And for now, I'm sticking with that because it's much simpler. It saves a lot of my time, which I can use for other stuff. And plus, I get to interact with people more on this. So I'm kind of liking this format. I might go back to the pre-recorded, post-produced reviews at some point, but for now, this works for me. And now I'm wondering whose rant was longer, yours on Gail Kim or mine on the Arrow ladies. Probably mine on Gail Kim in that blog that I wrote. Again, go to tnasylum.net and check that out. How has 4DFK been lately? He's around. probably plotting his next diabolical plot as we speak. I don't see him around all the time. No, he shows up when he's got something in the works. So I'm sure he'll make his presence felt eventually. For the record, I'm not as quick to conspiratorial thinking as you are with Gail Kim, but I'd be a fool to deny that you've got a point with that. Yeah, I'm not really I didn't really want to say that, for the record, if you haven't read the blog yet. Basically, I kind of accused Gail of enjoying the fact that that she's booked as like the be-all end-all of women's wrestling way too much, and not doing enough to help the newer girls get over, and in fact going out of her way to stop them from getting over. And I didn't want to say that, but it's kind of hard to deny when they booked her like they did last summer, to just cut off the Dollhouse's momentum at every turn, to beat them in handicap matches. Did she really need to beat the Dollhouse in handicap matches when the Dollhouse represents the only significant move you've made to refresh the Knockout division in several years? Was that really necessary? Did Gail Kim really need that? No, she didn't. It was just really counterproductive booking overall. And it seems like, if you think back, that kind of stuff seems to happen a lot with Gail Kim. And, she's not going to be around forever. She said recently that she's probably going to retire in the next couple of years. Well, if she's going to retire in the next couple of years, why are you still booking her like this? Why is she still going along with this? Hell, why is Gail not going to the writers and saying, you know what? I probably don't have a whole lot of time left. Maybe we should be doing more to build up these new girls so you have something to fall back on after I leave. But they're not booking her like that. Gail Kim is apparently happy being booked as this knockout juggernaut, and if she has any desire to help the newer girls and put them over and help build them into stars, she's not acting on it. So something's not right here. And that's what the blog is about. I go into that in great detail. And I hope you guys check that out, because I think that's one of the better things I've written recently. And I think it's a lot of things there needed to be said. And I think maybe they should be brought to Gail Kim's attention, because stuff like this can't continue if the Knockout division is going to be in a healthy place when she leaves. It can't go on anymore. Okay. I remember running the toilet bowl and the suicide pills. Yeah. Really like that one. It's one of the downsides of live streaming these videos, and that I can't do any of my sound bites and cutaway gimmicks anymore, because I really love some of those. I actually have some that I've never used. I was just keeping them on my hard drive, just waiting for the right opportunity to use them. I have some that I never had a chance to use. So maybe we'll go back to those at some point. Push, fire, bury. Brock Lesnar, Batista, and Bobby Lashley. Well, I would say fire Batista, even though they can't fire him because he doesn't work there. Plus, he's doing well for himself making movies. So that's easy. I don't know, I guess push Brock because he's the biggest draw in combat sports and WWE's business sucks right now. Bury Lashley because his promos suck and he can't talk for shit. Even though TNA shouldn't bury Lashley because he's a marketable guy, nevertheless. I told you so about episode because this disgust. I don't know what you're saying here. And yeah, now I'd like to... How many times Felicity needs to fuck up the way she did Wednesday before you're as pissed about her as you are about the Odarg, the fail? two different situations, really. And the Felicity thing pissed me off just because it's like they're having her act out of character just for the sake of dragging out the engagement subplot, and we know that's not what stops the marriage anyway, because Guggenheim tweeted that picture, so we know they do at least make it to the altar. So this is not what stops it. So really, it's done just to kill time, which is annoying to me. But with the Odarg the Fail thing, the whole thing was just stupid and insulting to the intelligence of the audience, and that kind of stuff I just cannot accept in any way. And that's what pisses me off so much about that. Do you think Reigns' injury is real, or Reigns is just selling being hurt so he doesn't deal with getting booed before Mania? I think it's a work. I don't think it'll stop him from getting booed at Mania, but he's gonna try, I guess. I want Dixie to fire Spud. Why would Dixie fire Spud? He's one of their best talents. That would be stupid. No offense. As cool as Spud's heel turn was, do you think Spud, being the size he is, makes him not as badass or intimidating? Oh, of course not. He's not a badass and he's not intimidating. It doesn't mean he can't be a star. It just depends on how you use him. He's the smaller guy. He can be the underdog babyface, or he can be like the rat-faced heel. I think the strength of Spud is in his character. He's a charismatic guy with great mic skills. He can get himself over. I mean, he's not going to be the badass. It doesn't mean he can't be a significant character. It doesn't mean he can't be a star. It all just depends on how you use him. I've always loved Gail Kim, I still do. However, TNA booking her like she's John Cena really has to stop soon because it's only hurting the knockout division. Agreed. It's just, if for a long time, you could see why they did it. Because like when the division was first starting out, she was the former WWE girl. She had a certain amount of star power. Plus, she was certainly the best worker. And she probably is still the best worker, but for God's sake, it's 2016. You gotta move on and develop new stars eventually. And the only significant times they tried to do that in the last several years were Taryn and Brooke, both of whom are gone now. Brooke was rumored to have left for political reasons. And, I'm just saying, that came right after they had her drop the title to Gail for no reason at all. So could that have had something to do with it? I don't know. But fact is, Taryn's gone, Brooke's gone, Kong's gone, and Gail is still here getting shoved down everyone's throats. Instead of helping to build up the new girls. Okay, she jobbed to Gail here. Thank you very much for that, Gail. But let's see if it goes anywhere. Because if she has a match with Jade and defeats her next week, suddenly that's, it's going to be like, well, why did you have her put over Jade in the first place then? If you're going to invalidate it with this like, even Steven booking. It just seems like they're really going out of their way and putting way too much energy into keeping Gail at the top of the heap. And if she's really going to retire in the next couple of years, you can't do that anymore. You have to move on. You have to put her into more of a utility player role where she can continue to help the girls have good matches, but she can also help build them up so you can develop the newer girls into stars so they can carry the division when Gail is gone. And they're just not doing that. And somebody needs to speak out. Somebody needs to let TNA know what they're doing, because I don't think they even recognize what a problem this is becoming. Jeff, he used blood packets Reigns is totally selling. Oh, you mean when Reigns got bloodied on Raw? Oh yeah, that was... Dude, there's a video of Byron Saxton handing him a blood capsule. Yeah, that wasn't a shoot. No, he wasn't busted open or something. That was totally a work. I like your Gail Kim article. Also, I don't hear anything bad about her from former knockouts. Eh, maybe not publicly. Doesn't mean it hasn't happened. Like I said, if there is anything, if this is something that Gail has knowingly been doing for a long time, I think she's been very, very subtle about it. Enough to the point where I don't think anyone who's worked with her would think that she's been doing it intentionally. Doesn't mean she hasn't been. Maybe she doesn't play politics, but you're right when you mentioned that she should use her seniority to put over the newer knockouts. Yeah, it just seems like someone in her position should be... I don't know if generous is the right word, but be a little more charitable. Try to do more to help the other girls instead of just keeping herself on top. Because, I mean, so much has happened, like with her in the dollhouse last year, where it's like, it just felt like she was using the dollhouse as a stepping stone to keep herself in the top position. I don't see why she has to do that, because her spot is not in jeopardy. She's going to be the top woman in the company, regardless of whether she has the title or not, until the day she leaves. Nothing's going to change that. So it just seems like she could be doing so much more to help out the newer girls and help the division, and she's just not doing it. She's just looking out for herself. And I don't like saying that because I am a fan of Gail Kim from way back, but it's just... I don't know how else to feel. I don't know what goes on backstage. All I know is what I see on the show and what she says in interviews. And everything that I see and hear from her is telling me the same thing. And this is where I'm at now with Gail Kim. Does Eli Drake have heat with someone? That could only explain this BS. There are rumors of him rubbing people the wrong way backstage, but Dixie Carter has repeatedly said on Twitter that she loves the guy. She loves what he's doing. She thinks he's a star. So who knows? I really don't know. Maybe this is just them being clueless about what they're doing to Eli Drake. Maybe they think this is actually putting him over somehow. I don't see why or how they would feel that way. To be fair, who else would Gail ask? There is nobody else to ask besides Maria. Glad Gail lost, by the way. Who else would Gail ask? How about no one? Have you been watching the show recently? Both Gail and Velvet have obliterated the Dollhouse 3-on-1. Have completely kicked their asses, not in matches, but, you know, in post-match angles and stuff. They've done run-ins and destroyed the Dollhouse 3-on-1. Plus, Gail beat the Dollhouse in multiple handicap matches by herself last year. Why would she ask Maria for help when she knows that Maria is a heel and would probably screw her over? It makes no sense. Realistically, Gail should be 150% confident about her ability to win that fucking match by herself, even if Velvet wasn't there. But no, she was in there by herself. And then, hey, here's Velvet to help her out. With the way this has been built up, you'd think Gail would have no problem with it just being 3-on-2. Because hell, she's beating them up she's beating them She's beating them up 3-on-1, and hell, so is Velvet recently. So why would they risk asking Maria for help? You know? It doesn't make sense. Why don't you review WWE? I don't know, lack of interest. WWE is pretty boring to me most of the time. Whoa. Okay. Holy shit, there's a lot of questions here. Hepatitis Hardy, damn it, EC3, you magnificent bastard. Yeah, that was good. Good to know someone in pro wrestling. Rockstar Spud actually has a memory, unlike the WWE Divas. Oh, dude, don't even get me started with the Divas. Spud's turn worked because there was a reason for it. With most of the Divas, they're turning back and forth, face and heel every fucking week. Reference the Bella Twins. Reference Paige recently. Oh, she and Natty are just friends again, huh? Just like that? Even though last time we saw them they were feuding, even though Paige took out Natty backstage, put her on the injured list. Oh, but now, because Total Divas is coming back, they're magically friends again for no reason? Yeah, that makes sense. Ugh. When did you stop being a WWE fan? I don't know when I started. I was always a fan of the other companies more. Was always more of a WCW guy. Just because, I mean, WWE, to a certain extent, has always kind of rubbed me the wrong way just because of, I don't know, the way they carry themselves, the way they present their shows, didn't always speak to me personally as a fan. Plus, the invasion, them botching the invasion angle the way they did, still is, that's a real sore spot for me to this day. By all rights, that should have been the biggest angle in the history of wrestling. It had practically booked themselves, and they could not have fumbled the ball any worse than they did. God, what a wasted opportunity that was. 2 hours is acceptable for Impact, but 3 hours of Raw is nothing more than a chore to endure. Yeah, pretty much. Of course, that's not going to change because they're getting a lot of money on that 3-hour TV deal. Felt the announcers really didn't do the Spud heel turn any favors. Luckily, Spud saved it. Really? I thought the announcing was fine. I mean, it would have been better if they just shut up and let the moment happen, but that's always going to be a problem in TNA. I mean, they spent years with Mike Tenay talking over every damn thing that happened instead of just shutting up. And so it doesn't look like they want the announcers to stop talking, but I greatly prefer Josh Matthews. WWE could have a brand split in the near future. Do you think that's a bad idea? It's a fucking terrible idea. Look at how the last brand split turned out. God, don't even go there. Yes, WWE made the brand split a joke. I have no desire to see that again in this lifetime or the next. Also, great article on the Gail Kim knockout scenario. Thank you. Once fans actually get to see what Rosemary can do in the ring and how strong she is, TNA fans will be screaming for her to be Knockouts champion. Dude, I'm screaming for her to be the Knockouts champion right now. She's the most interesting woman on the show, and she's only been there a couple of weeks. That's how good this character is. Do you think WWE will have WrestleMania in Canada ever again? I don't see why not. Is there a reason why they wouldn't have WrestleMania in Canada? I'm sure it'll happen eventually. What do you like to watch besides wrestling? Game of Thrones. Daredevil. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., The Big Bang Theory still. God, what else? Fuck. Grimm is a nice guilty pleasure show for me. What else? I like anime. Don't watch a lot of it, but there are certain titles I like. The hell else? So those are some shows I watch. What other promotions do you watch? I still follow WWE. Actually, live tweeting during Raw and just pointing out all the bad shit about it is one of my favorite things to do. I follow other promotions. I don't really watch any of them religiously, though. I hate that TNA didn't give EC3 the title. Yeah. Just something I thought I should point out. EC3, the ratings were going up on Pop TV. They were going up every week with EC3 as the champ. Then Matt Hardy won the title, and then suddenly the ratings are going down every week. Coincidence? You tell me. If Lucha Underground goes under, do you think Ivelisse Velez and Carly Perez for Knockouts and Drago for the X Division would be good signings. Ivelisse Velez, absolutely. I still can't believe they let her get away. But I think there had to be some kind of backstage issues with her because she was so impressive that not bringing her in to me, it could not be explained any other way. There must have been some kind of backstage issues there. It's the only thing that makes sense. And Carly Perez, I don't know. She has a good personality, I guess. Never really did much for me in the ring. Drago, I'm not familiar with. What did you think of the Shane McMahon segment in the match setup for WrestleMania? I'm excited for the match, even though storyline-wise it really doesn't make any sense at all. Because the way they explained it, it seemed like Shane had the power to just take control of Raw. And then suddenly he's agreeing to a situation where he has to win a match to take control of Raw. Why? It seemed like he could just do that anyway. So story-wise, it really doesn't make sense. I am excited for the match, though, just because I was always a big Shane fan. And the guy, he's done so much crazy shit in the ring in the past that I'm really excited about what might happen here. If Grado had a new attire and gimmick, would you reconsider your opinion of him? No. Grado sucks. Should Shane win against Taker with outside interference? No. No, that would make Shane the heel. And it would mean that you're swapping out the heel authority figures for another heel authority figure. So basically it would mean that nothing has changed. I thought the point of this was to have something different happen. And why would you want Shane to turn heel anyway? The guy was incredibly over as a face. It was one of the biggest pops we've seen him in a long time. And turning him heel on The Undertaker makes no sense. Can the Bullet Club or Sting help Shane win? People keep saying the Bullet Club is going to interfere in this match. I don't know why. They might have an investment in AJ. I don't know if they have an investment in Doc Gallows and Carl Anderson. Sting? Maybe. If they were, as far as setting up Sting versus Taker at a future date, well, the time to do that is not now. The time to do that was at Sting's first WrestleMania appearance. But they ruined that because Triple H had to have his fucking WrestleMania moment. There isn't much point in doing Sting versus Taker now. Do you like the ending on Raw and how Triple H is a babyface? That was stupid. If you want the fans to rally behind Roman Reigns, it's not by having Triple H basically act like a face. Man, he was technically doing heelish things, but he knew what he was doing there. He knew he was going to get cheered for it because the fans are not invested in Roman Reigns. So you have Triple H doing all the classic stuff, coming out in leather jacket and jeans and stuff. He's going to get cheered for that. And I think he knows that. So I don't know what he thinks he's doing, but he's sure not helping Reigns get over. I thought Rebel did well in Lethal Lockdown match, her best match to date. Yeah, probably. Again, they didn't have Rebel do a whole lot, but I thought for what they had her do, she performed well. I mean, she's still incredibly green, but, she's making progress. I keep hearing people crown Jade, but I'm not seeing it. I will keep giving her a chance, but I just don't see how she is in Gale's league. However, Rosemary would be a great champion. Agreed with Rosemary. Don't see how Jade is in Gale's league. Well, that's because Jade has been buried by Gale a great deal. I think if you see them on equal footing, you'll understand how, well, wrestling-wise, she's the closest thing they have to an heir apparent to Gail Kim right now. Do you like how they booked AJ Styles? I think it's clear that they don't think much of his mic skills. I don't see how jobbing him out to Chris Jericho did anything for him because Jericho loses to everybody. It is about what I expected, though. Eddie Edwards for X Division contender. Yeah, that's probably where he'll end up while Davey's on the shelf. Should TNA bring in death matches? No. I would not want to see Taker versus Braun Strowman, but yes, Shane took impressive bumps in the past. Love Shane as a character and the match with Kurt Angle. Oh, yeah. I still remember when Shane climbed up to the top of the set and dove off. God, that must have been... how high was that? What, 20, 30 feet? Good lord. That guy was insane. Who do you think will win, Lashley versus Angle? It should be Lashley. There's no point in putting Kurt Angle over in his last match. I could see them having enough respect for Angle to do it, but I think, if anything, Kurt Angle would say, no, I'm leaving. You should put over the guy who's staying. So I think Lashley will win. Since Drew Galloway won against Kurt Angle, Galloway should be the next top star. No, EC3 is the next top star. Galloway is still trying to get over and still trying to make his character work. He's got all the tools, but it's a matter of putting those pieces together. What do you think of Dean versus Brock? It's a hell of a lot more interesting than Brock versus Bray Wyatt, I'll tell you that. I want Shane to win because fuck Vince and Steph. Wish Shane would take over the family business in real life. Agreed on both counts. The faction thing could easily be done better. There's no reason a company with multiple factions running at once and fighting for power couldn't work. Okay, assume you're talking about the Omega thing. My problem is these have been their go-to angles for years and years. So much so that nothing feels new about it and it just feels like the same old shit. How many times have we seen factions or faction warfare or people fighting over control of the company in TNA? It's been done to death. Let's move on. Let's do something different. Isn't Shane next in line in real life to take over? If not, why not? I don't think he is in real life because he left the company to do other things because he wanted to take over the company and Vince wouldn't let, and it didn't happen because Vince wouldn't leave. So Shane just got frustrated and he left to do other stuff. The frequent issue with TNA's factions is how the takeover concept is always the main point. There you go. Matt Hardy and Drew Galloway should feud next while Mike Bennett feuds with EC3. That might be where they're going. I don't think Drew Galloway needs to go for the world title right now. If there would be any reason to do it, it would be just to use it as a selling point for the UK tour. Still, I think he's not quite ready for that yet. Like I said, he's still working on making that character click 100%. So I think they'll be going that way in the not-too-distant future. I don't think it needs to happen right this second, though. EC3 Mike Bennett could be a good feud, although not at the moment, because I don't think he's the guy to give EC3 his first pinfall loss. And also, I don't think... Also, Mike Bennett's not in a position where he should be getting jobbed out. So... I think it'd be a good feud eventually. It's just not... It's going to be a right place, right time scenario, and we're not there. Excuse me. We're not there yet. Brand split, already covered that. I feel like O'Darg is getting an opportunity to get his job back by beating Eli Drake for his briefcase, which is going to be stupid, and I'm sorry for giving that out. I hope that O'Darg does not get in. Getting an opportunity to get his job back. Why is he getting an opportunity to get his job back? Why is he even wrestling on the show when he was fired? Quote unquote fired, but the second they find out who he really is, they kick him out. But it was obvious who he really is. How could they not know who he really is? It makes no sense. The story is stupid. Should the British Invasion return? And they were a good tag team. It would be nice, but it's not happening, at least not anytime soon. Even though they are lacking for tag teams. Do you think a Dean heel turn will happen at Mania 32 and cost Reigns the title? Possibly. I could see it happening, but they'd have to be careful how they do it. how they do it, because they're in a position to put Dean Ambrose over in a major way in this match with Brock. I think people will end up really rallying behind him if they do it right. So to turn him heel at that point, I don't know. Execution will be everything. Should Magnus return to the main event as a babyface? Dude, Magnus left the company. If they could convince him to come back, sure. Doesn't look like that's going to happen anytime soon. If the stables worked an actual characterization, motivation, and theme beyond just the power itself, along with the individual ambitions and stance for the characters, it would be fine. Yeah, it's still faction warfare, and I'm still burned out on faction warfare. What's your thoughts on Shane O'Mac return to Raw? Already covered that. Just rewind the video when it gets uploaded. Will Taker be a heel, and will Cena get involved? How the hell should I know? They haven't done it yet. I don't think Taker's going to be heel or face. I think Taker will be Taker. And people will probably cheer for him regardless. Because it's Taker and it's WrestleMania. Will Cena get involved? I really hope not. I'm much more interested in seeing Taker versus Shane. What do you think of MVP and TNA? Yeah, I thought MVP did fine. I think his run came to a pretty abrupt end. It's unfortunate the way that turned out. But, 100% TNA's fault. They could have easily avoided the Hernandez situation if they just done their jobs and figured out and learned what his contract status with Lucha Underground was. But, they half-assed it, and I guess apparently MVP quit in protest or something like that. It's unfortunate. I thought he was doing really well. Lesson learned, I suppose. How will a tag team division be without the Wolves? Good question. I mean, they've been pretty much monopolizing the tag team titles and the tag team division for like 2 years now. And suddenly the team that you built everything around is gone. Well, I guess Beer Money will be the standard bearers now. And it's Beer Money and it's 3 heel teams, 2 of which have been buried. So I assume for the short term, Beer Money will be feuding with the Decay, which I'm all for. And hopefully they'll use that time to make Drake and Goddard's and Bram and EY a little bit more credible and hopefully bring in another face team for them to feud with. Fat Lordy equals loss of ratings. Agreed. Would you want Finn Balor to debut the night of WrestleMania? I think the night after WrestleMania would be a great place for him. Should Sheldon Benjamin come to TNA? Preferably, I prefer somebody younger with better mic skills. What's going to happen to EC3 now? Well, he'll be the top face of the company. I would expect him to at least be around the world title picture. But they're probably going to have somebody else go against Matt now. Why is Grado here? He's fired. I don't know. They haven't explained it. They haven't even tried to explain it yet. Would you add anybody to the Decay or just leave the group as is? I wouldn't add just anybody. I mean, you have to find somebody who fits with them. There are people out there who can do that. I don't know if anybody really springs to mind. I would like to add at least one more person to the group to have somebody else for Crazy Steve to team with, because I'm not necessarily a big fan of Abyss at this point, and I think he's kind of past his prime and just not very interesting or exciting to me. But they could keep Abyss as the muscle and have Steve team with somebody else. I mean, there are people out there for that. Just a matter of finding the right person. Should MVP return and manage a younger talent, maybe bring in Kenny King or Rhett Titus, the All Night Express? Well, it seemed like Kenny King was kind of the fall guy for the Hernandez debacle, so I don't think that would happen. If they wanted to bring MVP back, I'd be fine with it. Rockstar split heel term was short-term booking. Who would you have turned heel in his place? Short-term booking? Are you kidding me? That was set up a year ago. No, respectfully disagree on that. Who would you have turned heel in his place? Nobody. That story-wise, he was the best person for that spot. Spud turning heel made the best story. I mean, who else? Who else would have done it? Really? Who better in that position than Rockstar Spud? There's nobody. If Mike Tenay is still employed, why is he off screen? Because they need announcers that don't sound like they're sleeping, like they're sleepwalking through the product. They need announcers that have energy, that actually sound excited about what they're seeing, and Tenay can't do that anymore. The three-man team at Slammiversary worked very well, I thought. All three guys have different styles, so everyone brings something to the table. I disagree. I'm pretty happy with Josh and the Pope as a two-man team. I don't see any reason for Mike Tenay to come back. I thought Mike Tenay's heel turn was... Not Mike Tenay's heel turn, what am I saying? I thought Mike Tenay's job as an announcer was just... one of the things that was dragging the product down for me for a long time. No, teaming with Taz didn't help, but I think his time is done. All due respect to the guy, but they need a younger voice in the announce booth. Somebody with some energy. And Tenay hasn't had energy in a long time. Spud heel turn was too predictable. I agree it was predictable. I think the storytelling aspect of it made it worth doing, even if it wasn't shocking. I think it was still well done. Should they push Mandrews to face Trevor Lee? I'd be fine with that. I think Mandrews has all the tools to be a star. He's still kind of putting the pieces together and still kind of figuring out what his character should be and what his gimmick should be and what his like mannerisms and stuff are. I think he's a really talented guy though, and they got to push somebody against Trevor Lee. Plus, I mean, who else can do it? I mean, he's beaten Tigre Uno 3 matches in a row now. Do they have anybody else who can go for him? I guess DJZ is still there for, at least for now. Not sure who else is there. Is Rousey winning a rematch? I would suspect not. Guess it all depends on how she prepares for it. Mike Tenay is the worst announcer ever. Alright. Wouldn't say he's the worst announcer ever. I think Mike Adamle is probably the worst announcer ever, but... Tenay was certainly not very interesting announcer. Lashley really needs MVP back as his mouthpiece right now. Him being behind Raquel would totally make sense, and it would certainly be much better than expecting her or Lashley to ace a microphone. MVP being behind Raquel? I suppose. MVP being the mouthpiece would be a lot better than Lashley or Raquel talking. Yes. A lot better than Michael Cole is. I assume you're talking about Josh Matthews. I think that the move from Rebel that you were referring to was the Crossroads. No, that wasn't it. No, the Crossroads is something else. Do you see Lashley turning heel in 2 weeks? Dude, he's probably a heel now. You see the promo from him with Angle? How is that not heelish? What new feuds can they really have if everybody on the roster has faced each other several times already? Good question. I don't really think there's a good answer. That's why they need to replenish the roster. The X Division and the Knockouts are in most dire need of that. Kind of miss the old format with the sound bites. I miss it too. Doing it this way saves a lot of time. I might go back to the old way at some point, but this works better for me right now. Is it best to dissolve a dollhouse? If they can't, it would be if they can't, unless they can find interesting things to do with them. And if all they're going to be doing is feuding them with the beautiful people until the end of time, then I would say break them up. Christ, break up the beautiful people too, for fuck's sake. Because it seemed like there are stories you could tell with them breaking up. I would be hesitant to break them up right now. I mean, if you can get in some more girls to do some new things with them and feud them against different people, then yeah, keep them together. But if a breakup angle is the most interesting thing they can do with the roster they currently have, then it might be best to break them up. It all depends. It was seemingly unbelievable to say that Gail would have needed Maria's help if she made quick work of the dollhouse on countless occasions. Exactly. That's the problem I had with it. You spent all last summer having Gail destroy the dollhouse single-handedly. She's beaten them in multiple handicap matches by herself. Now, she's in a handicap match with them, except she has help. You'd think this would be no problem for her, and yet somehow she can't beat them. Somehow she thinks she needs Maria's help. Why? It makes no sense. Isn't Andrew Everett on the roster? Why not build that guy as the next great X Division star? I'm pretty sure Andrew Everett is still injured. Are there any former WWE talents you were surprised TNA never signed? I imagine they probably went after all these people. I'm sure they went after Melina and John Morrison. The question is, do Melina and John Morrison want to work for them? It's not always as simple as, sign this person or sign that person. Sometimes the person doesn't want to play ball. I meant when Matthews was ranting on what Maria leaving as a shot towards the fans and how the knockouts should be booked. Oh, I don't know. I'd have to rewatch the match. I think Josh was saying something about how Maria wanted to be in charge of the knockouts. I don't know. I like the Spud heel turn. Okay. I thought it was well done. Wasn't surprising, but the story was well told regardless. Did you like the Ruthless Aggression era? I never considered the Ruthless Aggression an era. It was just a thing that they did at the time. I don't see what differentiated it from anything else, really. Matt Hardy versus EC3 was the match of the night for me. I liked the Knockouts Lead the Lockdown. Was awesome. Beer Money versus Bram and Young was okay. Lee versus Uno was decent. And Eli versus Odark sucked. Would you agree? I don't know if Hardy EC3 was the match of the night. I think it told the best story of the night. I don't know. Match of the night was debatable. I think you could make a case for... I think you could make a case for a Beer Money versus Bram and EY or the X Division match. I guess it depends what you're looking for. I think the main event told the best story. In that sense, you could say it was the match of the night. From purely in-ring, like an in-ring work standpoint, there were other people you could make an argument for. Did you like the Orton versus Triple H feud in 2009? Was that the one that culminated with Orton just getting his ass handed to him at WrestleMania? I think they did good things. Having Orton kiss Stephanie when she was unconscious, that was a pretty sickening thing to do. The way that feud culminated at WrestleMania still really pissed me off. Like, was that really necessary? Did Triple H really needed his ego stroked that much? That was ridiculous. Favorite feud of all time? Oh, Christ, I don't know. There are feuds I think fondly of. I don't know if I have an all-time favorite. I love Styles, Daniels, and Joe for obvious reasons. Motor City Beer Money for obvious reasons. God, what the hell else? I think there was a story with Triple H versus Kurt Angle where they were fighting over Stephanie McMahon, It looked like it was building up to a WrestleMania match that for some reason never happened, and the storyline got axed. I don't know why. I thought the storytelling was brilliant in that thing. I thought that feud could have been hot as hell, and for some reason they pulled the plug on it. To this day, I don't know why. I thought that storyline was incredibly interesting, but that was shaping up to be an amazing feud, and then it didn't happen. I don't know. Give me some time to think. I could probably come up with a better answer. I don't really have a favorite feud of all time though. Let's see. Oh, I read it. Yeah, you were talking as a disgruntled fan who wants to see the Knockouts effectively Gail's legacy flourish. This is good. If anything, it probably wouldn't hurt if she read it. Yeah, well, I'm certainly not gonna spam her about reading it. Because, well, for obvious reasons. Would be interesting if she did read it, though. She'd probably just block me on Twitter, though. Let's see. Gail built up Taryn and then she left. What if that happens with Jade or Rebel? It's food for thought. You could say that Gail built up Taryn to a certain extent. Of course, Gail ultimately won. They had that big, unofficial best of 3. Of course, Gail eventually won that. Taryn won the first match, then Gail won the second one, and Gail won the third one, and yeah. Maybe Taryn got something out of it, but Gail was certainly protected every step of the way. What if that happens with Jade or Rebel? Well, you're going to run that risk regardless. You're going to run that in any situation. It's like, well, why put that person over if they're just going to leave later? Well, if that's a concern every single time, then you're never going to build up anybody. You got to take a chance on people, otherwise you're never going to create any new stars. What if that happens with Jade or Rebel? Well, what if it doesn't happen? What if Gail never puts over anyone and then retires? Then you've got a roster full of women who have been buried by the woman who's not there anymore. Then you're going to have a big fucking problem on your hands. Did you like Batista in his prime? I didn't dislike him. Was never a big fan. Spud being back as a heel is okay because, like you mentioned, it totally works for the story. EC3 has to overcome his wicked past to complete his rise as wrestling's greatest hero. Yeah, Spud always made a great heel. I was really looking forward to Spud and EC3 being a unit again. It being a team again. That would have been great. Kind of got my hopes up on that one, then got squashed. Spud is a great heel, though. I'm sure he'll be able to do some interesting stuff. And we never really had like a real drawn out feud between these two. I'm really interested to see how that would work. Okay. What of old TNA and current TNA could be incorporated to make an all-around better show and product? The old TNA, stronger X Division, stronger in-ring product, and of the new TNA, probably make, I guess, certain storytelling aspects, certain new production techniques. They have kind of upgraded their production since those early days. Jeff Jarrett being gone is something about the new TNA that I like. So the world title is not constantly monopolized by one guy. Sorry about that. I meant in a situation where all 3 guys were young and green. Giovanni. I'm trying to find out what you were talking about before. To what are you referring? I don't know. There's like a million questions here. I lost my place again. Evolution, DX, NWO, which one is your favorite? I wasn't really a big fan of any of them. Uh, I think DX were interesting at first, but holy shit, they beat that gimmick into the ground. And past a certain point, it just became sad. It wasn't cool anymore. It was just guys in their 40s acting like 12-year-olds. It wasn't charming anymore. It was just really bad TV. The NWO kind of took the wrestling business by storm for a while, but they wouldn't let it go. They just kept on rolling with it and rolling with it. It was so old and tired and boring, and it was the only thing they were bringing to the table as a company anymore. They just never let it die. I just got sick of it. Evolution, okay. Again, not my favorite. At least it sort of kind of succeeded in building up Orton and Batista, being a platform for them. I wouldn't say any of those. I wouldn't call either faction my favorite. Anyway, I don't know how much Spud will be aligned with Hardy, but at any time Spud comes out with Matt like he's one of his minions, I'll remember that Matt's new theme was originally Spud's. Yeah, Matt's so iconic he's using a recycled theme song. Lashley's mic spot promo on Angle was much stronger than Bobby Lashley's usually on the mic. And maybe he was a little better than usual. He's still not in his wheelhouse with promos. It's still not something that he excels at. I wouldn't say that he's an incredibly charismatic person in general. So yeah, overall, Lashley really benefits from a mouthpiece. Even though the promo on Angle was probably one of his stronger promos. They should sign a lot of new women wrestlers, have Jade and Rosemary be the focus, and have Gail in some lame-ass, boring love story angle until she decides to retire. No. Gail shouldn't be in a love story angle. Would hardly be booking her to her strengths. I think there's a reason why they don't have Gail in a lot of storylines, because that's really not her wheelhouse. She's the wrestler. I would love to have Jade and Rosemary get more focus in the Knockout division. I think that needs to happen and should be happening. There's no reason to take Gail out of there completely and put her in some storyline. No, you can still keep her in there because she's still your best worker, can still help all the matches be a lot better, but it's a matter of not going overboard with it. As far as you can remember, which lockdown would you say had a better build? I don't know. I have such a hard time differentiating them. It's like, well, lockdown 08 or 09 or 010. I don't really. I have trouble remembering that far back and remembering which happened which year. I think the one where Joe and Angle main evented had really good build-up. Just because they were finally building up to Joe winning the title, which had been so long overdue. That one stands out to me. I wouldn't say I could remember which one had the best build-up overall, though. Did you like the show of Raw where they did the draft in 04? Do you really expect me to remember that far back? Like one specific Raw from 2004? Dude, that's over 10 years ago. I don't remember a thing that happened on Raw back then. Maybe overall, that was a time when I was barely watching Raw. Sorry, I don't remember anything that happened on the draft episode of Raw in 2004. I don't remember a thing. And the power that I was referencing with the multiple factions thing was really just locker room power and credibility. I wouldn't have the groups anywhere near potentially taking actual authority. Okay. I was tried to say this episode disgust me. Alright. I want Gail Kim to retire and be a trainer for the knockout division. I would like her to put over a lot of people before she retired. I think she would make a great trainer for the knockouts. It doesn't sound like that's something that she's thinking about, though. Seems like once she retires, she plans to move on and do something else entirely. So, yeah, Gail, start putting some people over, please. What I'm looking at, ideally, is neutral face authority figures who only show up when needed. Holy shit. Okay, you know what? Get your final comments in and your final questions in, because I'm going to put the cutoff point down in a minute so we can wrap this up. And we can all get back to whatever we want to do on a Saturday night, because I'm pretty sure it's not doing this. Again, I'm sorry that we started so late, but it couldn't be helped. So get your final comments in now. I'll give it one more minute or so, and then I'll put the cutoff point in there. What I'm looking at, ideally, is a neutral face authority figure who only shows up when needed, and a bunch of individuals and groups vying for championships. Okay, I don't think authority figure is necessary. I'm really enjoying the fact that TNA does not have an authority figure, because I think it's a really played out concept. Maybe one that shows up once in a while, and to just make a match here and there. I think that's what they've got right now with Dixie Carter, basically. Bunch of groups and individuals vying for championships. All right, well, I'll give you that one, even though I'm not really interested in faction warfare right now, because I've just been burned out on it so much. With many of the wrestlers guided under one of several banners and or by one of a set of managers acting in a similar manner to sponsor organizations for fighting game tournament competitors. All right. My answer remains the same. Was it ever actually proven that Paige was the one who took out Natty? No, I don't think so, but it was heavily implied. And they were the ones who had issues with each other at the time, so who else would it have been? Because I thought it was at least implied that Team Bad were the real culprits. Well, from what I could see, it was heavily implied that Paige did it, but they never actually answered that question, so who knows. Do you find it hard to review Impact every week, aka Impact hard to watch? Sometimes I find it hard to find the time to do it. I don't think it's hard to review the show, because regardless of what happens, I think Impact always gives me a number of things that I want to at least talk about and discuss. I don't feel like WWE really gives me that. And there we go. All right, so we'll get through the last of these questions, and then we'll call it a night. Holy fuck. What questions are there? I know you don't like Grado. Do you like any comedy characters from wrestling history? Sure. And there's some comedy people that are actually funny. There are some things that Santino Marella has done that were genuinely funny. Think Edge and Christian, back in the day, you could call comedy characters, but they were still great in the ring. They had more to them than that. The problem with Grado is that, one, I don't find him funny at all, and it seems like he's such a one-note person. It's like, oh, he's fat and out of shape, so we should laugh at him. No, I don't see why that's funny. I don't get it. How would you have booked the invasion angle differently? Well, big part, it's the tip of the iceberg, but a big part of the reason is that you didn't have any of the WCW stars. It was all like the mid-card, undercard guys. And that's why they couldn't get over. And that's why you had to mix in all the WWE guys and put the ECW guys in there. And the whole thing became kind of a mess. And they ended up just playing, stereotypical heels. They were all vilified for it. And it didn't feel like the WCW fans were being represented there. It all just became about putting over WWE. And it didn't seem like they had a plan for it. In fact, I can tell you for a fact there was no fucking plan for it. They were just booking the whole thing week to week. It was all a big mess. So how would I book the invasion angle differently? Plan out what you were going to do and actually stick to it. Have like a real actual storyline in place. And that would just be to start with. I mean, there were a lot of other things you could have done. Not going to get into that now. I do like how TNA is not trying to rely on the past as much as they used to, at least for everything, but the Knockouts, they still need some more talent on the roster. Yeah, it does seem like they're at least trying to progress and create some new people, and new stars, and new acts and everything. In every division except the Knockouts. I don't know why that's so hard to do with the Knockouts. Again, you have to come back to maybe Gail Kim is at the root of the problem there. Because that's the one division that seems to want to keep the 2007-2008 status quo in place come hell or high water, and the person who seems to benefit the most from that is Gail Kim. So, if I've got to point the finger of blame at somebody in that division, it's going to have to be Gail. And again, I don't like doing that, but this has become a big problem. And somebody's got to be behind it, and if not Gail, then who? Show me someone else who could be responsible for it. Please. I would love for there to be somebody else responsible for it, but right now it looks like it's Gail. And that's what I'm left with. What time will the stream for Impact air next Saturday? There's not a set time for these on Saturday. I tend to do it when I have free time on Saturday. Usually it's around 3 o'clock. But if you're looking for it, I say follow me on Twitter, because I'll try to give some kind of heads up before I do it on Saturdays. There's no set time for it. Do you watch Code Lyoko? I don't know who that is. I'm sorry. Which anime do you like? I love Bubblegum Crisis 2040. That's probably my favorite one. I love all things Ghost in the Shell. I have the movie. I have Standalone Complex. I have Solid State Society. I don't have the new ones. Haven't seen those yet. But yeah, I've got a whole pile of anime here. Yeah, those are some of the titles I have. I like Tenchi Muyo a lot back in the day. Even though I don't think it's aged very well, and some of the storytelling aspects are just like, dude, just pick one. Just pick one of them for crap's sake. Clearly, Ryoko is the one you're leaning toward. Just go with her, Do you watch NXT? Not really. I'll watch a match here and there if I hear good things about it, but I don't really follow it. Rosemary's face paint has more personality than the entire Knockout division. You're not wrong. I think that's one of the things that really makes her stand out. One is the character. The face paint really adds to that. I think she really distinguishes her. It makes her look really unique. And it's one of the reasons that I'm very eager to see her start competing in the Knockout division, because she stands out so much. Gail, character-wise, is like Shawn Michaels in the 90s. Okay. Is this pre-sexy boy character? I don't know. If you could hire 5 knockouts right now and one of them had to be Madison Rayne's partner, since she's only over when she's with somebody else, who would it be? Ugh. I would argue that Madison hasn't been over even when she's been with somebody else, but hire 5 knockouts, huh? Okay. Kaylee Ray, Nikki Storm, Cherry Bomb, Jennifer Blake, and Shauna. Just off the top of my head, I'd go with those 5. Which one would I pair with Madison? Christ, I wouldn't want to pair any of them with Madison. I'd say Nikki Storm. Because if there's one person I could see making Madison Rayne entertaining, it would be Nikki Storm. Because I think Nikki's charismatic enough to do that. Alright, WWE is better than TNA, I'm sorry. Yeah, okay. Different strokes for different folks. Do you think Naomi deserves a Divas Championship run? She's kind of sloppy, but I think she's one of the good athletic divas. I think she deserves one, sure. Will she ever get it? Probably not. And not unless all the top girls get injured, and they don't really have much of a choice. It doesn't seem like they view her as being somebody to build a division around, which I think is kind of selling Naomi short. I think she's talented enough to be a champion, and certainly they've had much less talented girls as the champion. Will she ever get that title run? That's anyone's guess. I'm kind of skeptical about it myself. I don't think EY and Bram or Eli and Jesse are all that interesting. I think their act is just stale and boring. I hope they sign some real tag teams. Well, so do I. Fact remains, they don't really have a lot to work with in the tag team division right now. I think Eric Young and Bram are fine. They're just booked badly. Eli and Jesse, I think, work personality-wise, because they're very similar in that regard, but they're also being booked like shit right now. But yeah, they do need more tag teams. The whole BDC were the fall guys for the Hernandez debacle. Yeah. I think it would be stupid if Eli Drake, Jesse Goddard's, Odark, and Mahabali Shera, the team would be... What? I think it would be stupid if Eli Drake, Jesse Goddard's, Odark, and Mahabali Shera, the team would be called the Shuffle Man Drake the Great, which would be stupid. What? I don't even know what you're saying here. I think it would be stupid if Eli Drake, Jesse Goddard's, Odark, and Mahabali Shera, the team, would be called the Shuffle Man Drake the Great, which would be stupid. The team and name, would I agree that that's a stupid name? Yes, I would. What are your hobbies? What are my hobbies? I would count YouTube as a hobby. Hobbies outside of pro wrestling. I love watching movies. I love a bit of a TV junkie, although I don't watch nearly as much TV as I used to. Yeah, I go to movies a lot. So that would be one. Who should be the next TNA champion? Well, if it's not going to be EC3, I don't know. Maybe Jeff Hardy. Kind of seems like they'll be heading in that direction. I think Galloway will probably get it by the end of the year, but I don't think it's his time just yet. Was I the only one who saw Rockstar Spud's heel turn coming? No, it was pretty obviously going to happen. Yeah, I already went over that. Just go to the beginning of the video. I discussed that in detail. Handicap match, Fourth Dimension Fool Killer and Terminator NJ versus Grado. Let's do it. That would be... Oh, God, I would actually be rooting for a Fourth Dimension Fool Killer in that match. What have you done to me? MVP stated in an interview, my interview with him on Andre Corbeil's show, episode 5, that he will never work for Impact Wrestling again. Yeah, okay. So I guess he took the fall for the Hernandez debacle as well. That's unfortunate. It was hardly his fault. Even if he did recommend Hernandez to begin with, it wasn't his fault that it didn't work out. All they had to do was call the Lucha Underground office and say, hey, is this guy still under contract? Yes? Okay, we won't use him then. Somebody in the TNA office fucked up big time. Why does WWE have Byron Saxton on Raw announcing? Because he's younger than Jerry Lawler. That's probably the only reason. I can deal with JBL and Cole, but Saxton should not be announcing on Raw. Mauro Ranallo should be on the Raw announced team. Alright, that seems to be what a lot of people are saying. I won't disagree with that, but I don't see it happening anytime soon. People in wrestling you least respect, and why? Respect the least? People I respect the least? I don't know. I suppose people who get into it as a pathway to get into show business. Not to speak ill of people who, people like The Rock, or to a lesser extent John Cena, who have used it to get into show business. But I mean people whose immediate goal was to use wrestling to get into show business, not people who just happened to happen to. I guess not explaining this very well. Do you want a specific name? All right, Hulk Hogan. I respect what he's done for the wrestling business, but I have very little respect for Hulk Hogan as a human being. I think he's incredibly selfish and egomaniacal, and he's always been out for himself. And that's something that I have very little patience for. Plus, no. Is there a better answer than Hulk Hogan? I don't think so. I would love to see the Dollhouse and the Beautiful People break up because this feud is going absolutely nowhere, in my opinion. Would you agree with me? Because it's boring. I would love to see the feud end. I want to see the Beautiful People break up, absolutely. Because that faction has been old since 2010. It's been stale. It's not interesting anymore. And I think they're just keeping them together just to keep them together, just to have something to do with them. And well, if you don't have anything else to do with them, just don't do it anymore. Get rid of them and bring in some new girls. I don't already talked about this with the Dollhouse. I think if you could find anything, something interesting for them to do, then keep them together, because they really haven't been together all that long. But if the most interesting story possible for them is to break up, then you might as well do that. Do you think Matt Hardy is a transitional champion, or is TNA being real with him? No, I think they're being real with him. I would prefer it if he were a transitional champion, because I think him as the world champion is contributing to the decline in viewership. But no, I think TNA are being serious about this. Zach Harris. I like the new way doing live reviews. Been a supporter of FK for 9 years, since 2007, and I always wanted interaction from him. 9 years. Holy shit. Has it been that long? My God. Okay. That's one person in favor of doing the streams. Like, people are split on that, I think. Do you think Abyss can still be the monster he was before, or is he long gone from it? I think it depends how motivated the guy is. I mean, he's definitely getting heavier now. I think age is starting to catch up to him. He's probably a lot more beat up than he used to be. And he can still do things. I don't think he'll ever be able to deliver the way he used to. But so much has happened to him, and he's been repackaged so many times and been poorly booked for a long time. I don't think he'll ever be what he was. Maybe he could recapture some of that, but I don't think he'll ever be the monster he used to be. Okay, don't have any issues with this format. Just you missed some of the things from the old format is all. Okay. Triple X versus AMW is one of TNA's best feuds of all time. Oh yeah, the cage match with the Elix Skipper walk across the cage wall. Yeah, that was amazing. That was a great one too. Do you think heels need to win clean all the time? Not all the time. I think it's interesting if it's done some of the time, because heels don't always have to cheat to win. Sometimes heels can win because they're just better than the other guy and they don't need to cheat to win. I think it all depends on the heel you're talking about. Because with some characters it works, with some characters it makes more sense for them to cheat. Barry Fire Push, men in their prime. Okay. I guess that was a Fireberry Push for Brock, Lashley, and Batista in their prime. Boy. In their prime? Oh, Christ. Push Brock, obviously. Barry, Lashley, for the lack of mic skills, I guess, and fire Batista because I like him better making movies than doing wrestling. If you could trade Grado, EC3, and Jade, would you take CM Punk, Kaylee Ray, and Tony Storm? It's an all three trade at once, not individuals. Oh, so trading 3 for 3, huh? Oh, God. God help me, I would have to say no, don't do that trade, just because it would mean losing EC3, who is unquestionably TNA's top star at this point, and seems he's still like really young and motivated, whereas CM Punk would be neither of those things, and CM Punk wouldn't even want to be there. I would love it if they could get Kaylee Ray and Tony Storm. Losing Jade would be a bad thing, though. Of course, they could get rid of Grado. That would be wonderful. But yeah, but losing EC3 would be... No, that should not be done. Under any circumstances. What do you think of the Jimmy Havoc Decay angle? Kind of already went over that. I think it's interesting. I think it's good that they have Rosemary involved in some kind of storyline that seems to be about her. It's only making me more interested in her and more eager to see them do more with her. I think there are some blanks they can fill in. I hope there's more to the story than we've seen. But I like Jimmy Havoc so far. Not terribly familiar with the guy, but I'm anxious to see them do something with him. Giovanni Garcia. You're leaving the chat? Oh, you're okay, dude. That's all right. Let's see, Michael Walker. If the TNA Knockouts Tag Team Championship was reinstated, oh boy, does it happen to be a team you'd like to see sport the? Does it happen to be a team that you'd like to see sport the title? My vote is for the Kimber Bombs. Oh, God. If the Knockouts tag team titles are brought back, well, that probably isn't going to happen ever. Um, because they did nothing with those titles in the first place. And they didn't really have a good reason to introduce them in the first place. They weren't introduced because they had a plethora of knockout tag teams with nothing to fight for. They were brought in just to give the knockout singles wrestlers more to do. There was no real impetus to do that, and it was obvious they never had a good plan for it. And no surprise, the knockout tag titles were a failure. And if they were to give them another shot, they would need a much bigger roster, probably about 3 times the knockout roster that they have now. The Kimber Bombs, okay. I like the Kimber Bombs. And they have the benefit of not having been buried by Gail Kim at any point, so that's a big plus. Why not have Kimber Lee, too? Okay. Kimber Lee is cool. I would have nothing against them bringing her in, especially if a Cherry Bomb comes with her. I'd love to see the beautiful people win the Knockouts tag titles. Aha, psych. I'm sick of them. I suppose the Dollhouse can have a reign with them. Okay. What pro sports do you like? MMA, that's about it. Do you think they should change the look of the X Division Championship? No, I think the current one is fine. Thanks for reading my comments. You're welcome. How many more seasons of The Simpsons will The Simpsons have left? Oh, who knows? Seems like they'll probably keep going until the cast dies. As long as the cast wants to do it, I guess, because the show is still making Fox money after all these years. Who knows? The Simpsons could go on indefinitely. Before retiring, Gail should put over young knockouts who need the rub and kick Grado's ass. Yes to both things. Yes. Beautiful People versus Grado at Bound for Glory. Winner and loser must both leave TNA. No reason to pollute the Bound for Glory card with Grado. And the Beautiful People, for that matter. Do it on TV. Just do it on free TV and then get it over with. But yes, winner and loser must both leave TNA. That would be great. And... oh, good. Okay, when the cutoff point goes in there, that's where I feel like wrapping things up, guys. It seems like a lot of people are still sending in questions, so I'll answer the rest of these because they were asked. But it's kind of about time I'd like to wrap this up. But here we go. What investors would be interested in the company? Big John says the company is looking for more investors. What investors would be interested? Who the hell knows? That would be a business question for somebody with more business acumen than myself. Now, I really have no idea. Just finding someone who would be interested? That's a good question. They don't have as much negotiating power as they used to, clearly. If they can find somebody, great. But who knows if it'll ever happen. It's a Harlem series. Pick one. Always happens either late or never. Okay. I don't know what you're talking about. All right. I think the move Rebel used you're referring to was a backbending STO. Okay. That team should be called Jobbers or released ASAP. Yep. I don't blame MVP. Nah. It's stupid to blame MVP. It wasn't really his fault for the Hernandez debacle. That was 100% on the front office. Because they could have easily avoided that if they just done their jobs, but they didn't. Jerry Lawler's winding down, hence why he probably went to SmackDown. Yeah, also because they wanted a younger face in the announce booth because they're very conscious about things like that. I agree about Hogan. Good. Streams are good as long as I see your reviews. I'm cool with whatever. All right, thank you very much. Where do you see TNA next year? Probably in the same place they're at now. Hopefully they'll be able to grow their ratings somewhat. Certain things have to happen before they can do that. But the shows have been pretty consistently pretty good since they've been on Pop TV. I'm enjoying them for the most part. Where will they be next year? I think they'll still be on Pop TV. Thanks for answering my questions. You're very welcome. Would you agree with me that the beautiful people of the Dollhouse, Maria and Gail Kim, are all better than Grado? Yes. And that is going to do it. Okay. That'll be it for tonight. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Once again, I'm sorry that we got started so late. It couldn't be helped. I went a few days without getting much sleep, and it all caught up with me today. I just had a really tough time getting going this morning, and I was having a lot of trouble sleeping too. I was just kind of tossing and turning, and then waking up, and then going back to sleep, waking up, going back to sleep, and just not getting a lot of rest. So, hence we're doing it on Saturday night instead of Saturday afternoon. So I'm sorry if I kept you guys home on Saturday. So let's put an end to this so we can all get out and do something. Thanks everybody for tuning in. I will see you on Thursday for the Comic Show post show. We got Agent Carter and we got Legends of Tomorrow. I think Flash and Arrow are off for the next couple of weeks. We got those two shows, and then tune in next Saturday. Where we'll talk about Impact again. I will hopefully be able to get the stream started earlier in the afternoon so we're not all stuck here on Saturday night. So, thanks for tuning in. Good talking with everybody, and I'll see you on Thursday. Later.